Well, this is part 4 and hopefully the last part in my kitchen island build series. The cabinet is done, the doors are done, the shelves are done, the drawers are done. I've still got at least one more coat of finish to put on the drawer fronts. So in this episode, I'm going to mill up the pieces for the top. I'm going to put the finish on the drawer fronts, and I'm going to hang the doors. I'm going to finish the shelves, and I'm going to put the bottom frame around on the case so that I've got something to mount the wheels to. Then I'll mount the wheels, mount the top, and we'll put it inside in place, and I'll put stills up at the end. So hopefully I can get it all in one video. So how's it going to go along? Well, come along with me and let's get to the table saw and start milling some cedar. And I've picked out the 5 boards that I want to use for the top. So what I'm going to do now is take my chop saw outside and I'm going to cut these to rough length. I'm going to leave them a little extra long. The top's going to be 72 inches long. I'm going to cut these to about 74. That'll give me some leeway. Then I'll bring them in here and mill them up, cut the rounds off, and mill these up on the table saw. Then I can put them over here on the workbench and start gluing them up. And I'll come back when I get these cut to length. Okay, I'm back to this one is straight. I know it's straight. I checked it again. It's the one I was using before. Most of these other pieces aren't terribly straight. They've got a little bit of a warp in them. Not a warp, but a bend this way. It's not bad. It's just enough to make it so I don't like it. And I've got to cut the rounds off of these anyway to edge join them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pressure on this tape. Don't need much. Just enough to make it stick good. Now I'll move my fence, raise my blade, move my fence back over. So that's flush with that. I need to take about 1/4 of an inch off. I need to bump this over about 1/4 of an inch from where it is. That's nice and flat. Okay, this is my pretty side. I'm gonna keep my pretty side up. They're all nice and straight now. There is a little bit of, this one has a tiny bit of bow. I can work that out with the biscuit joiner. I'm going to use biscuits to glue these together. Biscuits don't add any strength whatsoever, by the way. None. The only reason I use biscuits is for alignment, to keep these roughly aligned. This one's not too bad. It's got a little bit of a warp in both directions. When I get it all glued together, I'm going to run it through my belt sander or my drum sander, and I should be okay. It'll make it nice and flat on both sides. Now I'm going to work on my alignment. I want this one in the middle. I know that because it's the lightest of the 5. So I have to determine what I want surrounding it. And I think we'll put the darker on the outside. Well, Billy, you're not using a joiner. You're only using the cuts from the table saw. What if you've got a little gap in your top? Small gaps, 32nd of an inch, 64th of an inch, whatever. For this particular instance, it's not gonna really make any difference because I'm going to coat this with tabletop epoxy. All glued up. This is going to give me, my top's going to be 24 inches wide. This is going to take me to just almost 25, just over 24 and 7/8. I got it all ready and adjusted with my biscuit joiner. Cut my biscuits and it's dead. The last time I used it, it was just fine. Well, as luck would have it, I went on Facebook Marketplace last night and happened to find this little jewel. It's a Ryobi biscuit joiner. He was asking 80. I got it for 60. I'm gonna be able to use it, but man, I wouldn't buy one of these new if my life depended on it. Can't adjust the depth well. I had to put this stop on it to get it. But at least It's not a bad biscuit joiner if you can get the fence to stay put. That's the problem. Fence don't want to stay put. Biscuits are cut. What should have been a 1-hour job this morning has turned into all day, and my back's hurting. So I'm gonna go in for the day. I'll come back in the morning and I will glue this top up. Okay, my clamps are in place. Got tape on them to protect them to keep glue from getting everywhere. Now it's time for gluing up all these joints. I'm gonna do this in stages so that this doesn't, it's just safer that way. It'll take longer, but it's safer. I got plenty of glue there. I'll leave it in the clamps for an hour. Come back and do the next board. I'll come back in an hour. We'll glue this one up. Come back an hour later and do this one. An hour later and do this one. And then I'll leave it set overnight. It's been a little over an hour. Hour, I'll come back and do it again. I'll come back in an hour, clean the excess glue off, and then leave it in the clamps overnight. Had some fine knot cracks, or cracks in the knots. Some of the knots on the face of this. So I filled them with brown Star Bond, and I'm going to give these several hours to dry now. Once the CA is dry, then I will come back in here and trim off about 1 inch from each end, get them nice and square. Then I can take this to the table saw and rip, again, about 1 inch off of each side and get this to final dimension. Once that's done, I will enlist some assistance and we will run this through the drum sander a couple of times and get it nice and smooth. Okay, while I'm waiting on that CA to dry, I'm going to put at least 1 coat of polyacrylic on the inside of this cabinet. I'm not going to put any behind the drawers. I don't think it's not necessary. But in here, it is necessary, just for my peace of mind, if nothing else. My wife said, nobody's going to see over there. You don't need to put a finish on the inside. It's going to be covered by the doors. I said, yeah, but it's not going to be covered when the doors are open. It's looking like 1 coat is going to be good. I don't need to do the back. I've already got 2 coats of poly on it. That's the inside of the cabinet done. Now we're going to go over here and take the drawers out one at a time and finish the inside of the drawers. I'm not sure how many coats it's going to take down here on the inside. Y'all really can't see what I'm doing inside the drawer, so there's no point in me wasting video footage on that. I'll come back when I'm doing something else. What I'm going to do right now is I'm making me a mark. I'm going to trim a little bit off here to get this square. I'm doing it this way because I just don't have room to run this on my table saw. through, cut it to width. Well, cut one side because I need to even it up so that it's the same. Now we turn it around, set the fence to 24, and make the final cut. When I have some helping hands, I will run this through the sander. Before I run it through the sander though, I think I'm going to round this over. Router already set up with it. Now I'll flip it and do the other side. Alright, I need this out of the way so I can work on the shelves. So factory edge will go against the fence. 16/8. Measure twice, cut once. Got my stop block set up. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to run this through and square up each edge. I'm going to coat these two faces that I'm going to glue and let them sit for a few minutes. After I let this sit a little bit, I'll come back and we'll glue it on, put it in the clamps, and then I'll work on the other two. Okay, that's been about long enough. That just keep it from blowing. Okay, the top has been sanded. I ran it through the drum sander a little while ago. Those are out of the clamps. I've put some filler on them in a couple of places. I'll sand those up and stain them in the morning. I'll also sand up the doors and we will start hanging the doors. Time to do a little sanding. Coat of finish on the inside of the doors. Probably end up using 2 coats. Yeah, I'm gonna hit this with at least 2 coats. It's soaking it in pretty good. I may use 3. When you're doing finish work with a brush, it's important that you not skimp on the brush. A cheap brush will yield bad results, more streaking, etc. You don't have to buy the most expensive brush you can find. Just get a good one. This is Purdy brand, P-U-R-D-Y. It's a good brush. The package looks like this. And make sure you clean it good. Okay, I'm staining these. Yeah, I'm not ready to even it, but I have silver. 2 tricks for baby stars. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I got what I do is I typically make it a little long, and then but I don't use a real thick material either because it looks too light or it looks too bulky for me. So what I do is I'll use something like a ribbon, or I'll take a single layer piece of cloth and go to the door. And yeah, I'll put it once around and I'll do it a little bit long, and I will take. I've got a nice coat of stain on all of these. These are dry and ready for another coat, so let me move these out of the way and set them up to dry. I went to all the trouble of using this template to drill the shelf, the pins, the holes for the shelf pins. So I'm gonna have to drill a bunch of new holes. Ow! I did it again. If you're having to drill through something and you need a backer board, make sure you use a backer board the right size. I drilled into 2 of my fingers. I got one just a little bit and I got one pretty good, but now I'm all doctored up. Now, the shelves, in spite of my best measurements, are a little long. Again, I'd rather them be long than too short. So I need to take about 1/4 inch, or 1/8 of an inch. I need to take 1/8 of an inch off the back of each one. When you're applying a finish like this on wood, it's important to go with the grain and not against it. Going with the grain as opposed to cross grain, even if you end up with a streak or two in your finish, which is easy to happen. If you do end up with a streak and you went with the grain, more times than not, it won't even show up. It won't be noticeable. But if you're finishing across the grain and you have a streak, you'll see it every time. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're applying a clear finish on wood like this, make sure you have a light source that can reflect off of the piece into your eye. That way, if you have any mist spots, or they'll show up as dry spots. If you have any dry spots, that light will tell on it right away. I need to sand the drawer fronts to 220, and then I can put the finish and sand this piece here, and then I can put the finish on the cabinet on the inside of that. We've made a decision, another design change. It's actually reverting to an original specification we were doing. I am not going to put legs on this kitchen island. It is going to be mobile. I'm going to put heavy duty casters under it. I've already got them. Well, dadgummit, I thought I was recording this whole time and I didn't record a lick of it. I installed the bar for the wheels, and I had to cut it to length because it was a little bit too long. I also had to add a 2x2 glue block in each of these corners for the lag bolt that goes into it, because in this corner it would have only had, the lag bolts are about 2 inches long, and it would only have had about a 1/2 inch of pine. The same with this corner. So I added basically a 2x2 into each of these corners. Then put the lag bolts in it, and it runs nice and true. Once I get the finish on the front of the doors, I will mount them to these wheels and we'll put them on. I got all of that done. I've got quite a bit done today. These are stained, they have to be finished. The fronts of the doors have to be finished. I need to lay this on its back, put the 1x cedar frame around the bottom to screw the casters onto, and then I'll stand it back up and we'll finish this bad boy. It's getting really close to being, all that's left for me to do is finish work, as in applying finish, and I'm happy about that. All of the milling is done except for the bottom frame that I'm going to screw or bolt the casters to. So I've got the first coat of finish on the shelves. Now I'm going to put the first coat of finish on the door front. That'll work. Which is why I built it. Okay, got one coat of finish on the shelves and the doors. I'll let that dry about an hour, then I'll come back and put another coat on it, and then we'll see how many more we gotta go. Okay, now I'm milling up the piece for the bottom that I'm going to bolt the casters to. I've got it cut to length, now I need to cut it to width. And because I've got stuff sitting on the workbench, I can't film from my usual angle. All right, Rob, you should be happy you got Switchy in the picture. Billy, that looks ugly. Why didn't you cut those off like you did that one? Who's gonna be looking under the cabinet? So there. Another reason I didn't trim them is because I wanted to make sure I had plenty of meat down here for the casters. Okay, I've done quite a bit of sanding already. I've sanded up the drawer fronts. They're done. Now, this is the bottom of the top. I'm gonna sand it. This is 150. I just want to get it smooth enough to put a couple of coats of polyacrylic on it so that I get both sides sealed. So I'm gonna sand the bottom and the sides. Okay, I'm an idiot. All this time I thought I was recording. The card got full, I had to go in and dump it, and I came back and I thought I was recording, I guess I wasn't. So I've got my first coat on the bottom. I'm gonna let it dry 30-45 minutes and I'll come back and put a second coat on. And now I'm gonna start with my second coat on the cabinet. I don't know about y'all, but I think that cedar is turning out really, really pretty. And I was really surprised. I've never seen cedar with curl in it. And there's a little bit of curl right in here, and there's some curl over here. You could pick up some chatoyance. It just blows my mind. It's really, really pretty stuff. Now, once you get a good finish on it, it's nice. So that's coat number one. Okay, time to put coat number two on the bottom of the top. That's gonna finish off this can, I think, pretty much. Time to rinse the brush. I think that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna let this dry for several hours before I flip it over. I have one more coat to put on the drawers, and then I can start assembling after I start putting the finish on this. It's gonna take a couple of days to get this finished. Okay, I've got one coat on the drawers and they've been sanded back to 220 again. I'm fixing to put another coat on the drawers. I've got the doors hung. They do not come off. The tolerances are so tight that I have to actually unscrew them from the wheels to get them off. But it doesn't matter. They work just fine. Roll nice and smooth. They look good. And the top has been sanded to 220. It's ready for its first coat of finish. I'm probably going to put, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 8 coats of finish on this top. I'm gonna get one coat on it tonight. It's getting late, so I'm gonna throw a coat of finish on the top and one more coat on the drawers, and we'll see if they need more tomorrow. Just finishing up coat number 5. Before I started this morning, I put the top in place, got it where it's gonna be, pre-drilled the through holes in the cabinet, and started pilot holes on the top so we know where the screws are gonna go. Well, as often happens when I'm nearing the end of a project, I get a little excited and sometimes forget to hit record, which is the case. I've got 2 of the 4 casters on now. I'm putting number 3 in, or on. So these are 3.5-inch diameter casters. They are all swivelable. I mean, they're all swivel, they're all lock. They're probably rated at a couple 100 pounds each, which is good because this cabinet is not light. I mean, it is not light. Now, there's only one thing left for me to do. The top has 6 coats of finish on it. I will apply 2 more coats today, and then I will take it all up to the house and put the top on it. It is right now Monday before Thanksgiving, 1:36 in the afternoon. So in another 4 hours, so by 5:30 my time, 6 o'clock thereabouts, I will have the last coat of finish on this top, and the carcass will be up in the house in position, ready for me to take this out and put it on in the morning. She wanted it by Thanksgiving. That's Thursday. She'll have it to the Tuesday before, which will give her just enough time to get everything loaded into it. Okay, the final coat is on. The next time you see this, it will be installed on the island and it will be in place in my kitchen. Well, thanks for sticking with me through this build, folks. I really appreciate it. Honest, I just really do. Yes, it's not a turning, and yes, it's taken an awful long time, and yes, it's taken a lot of my time away from my lathes, but you know, sometimes that's just the way it goes. She wanted it done by Thanksgiving. I just squeaked in. I just barely made it under the wire. A couple of days from now is Thanksgiving, and it's in place and it's ready to go. So I'm happy about that. Again, I appreciate you sticking with me. Please visit my sponsors. Descriptions are in the links below. If you're interested in any of the tools or things that I either used in this video or other videos or things that I do use, you can find those at this link on my website. Speaking of my website, if you want to buy hats, t-shirts, swag, some of my turnings, you can go right here. If you've got questions, I'm always happy to answer questions to people that ask, and you can email me at this email address, and I'll try to respond as quickly as I can. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Any and all support is always appreciated. My Amazon affiliate link is down in the description below as well. Anything you buy, when you go to that link, I get a few pennies of it. It doesn't cost you any more at all. And again, no obligation. It's just appreciated. So thanks again for watching. I promise I'll have a turning coming soon. I've got an idea for a Christmas turning that I'm going to try next week, and I'm kind of excited about it. It's going to be a little bit different. So hang on to your hats and stay tuned, and come back and check us out here in the Messy Studio. Remember, live, laugh, and love, and y'all come back. Have a great Thanksgiving.